When was the last time kindness broke your heart? At 19, I started working at a small diner where I met Walter, an elderly man who came in every morning at 6 a.m. sharp. He always ordered the same thing: 2 sunny-side-up eggs, bacon, and cinnamon. French toast. But what caught my attention was how he'd order a second plate of French toast, wrap it carefully in napkins, and take it with him. One morning, when business was slow, I asked him about it. His eyes lit up as he told me about his wife, Angela, who was in the nursing home down the street. She had severe dementia and barely recognized anyone, but she still lit up at the taste of cinnamon French toast. It was our first date, he explained. I was so nervous I spilled syrup all over my shirt. He laughed, but his eyes were wet. Soon, I started making his French toast extra special, adding a touch more cinnamon, making sure the edges were perfectly crispy the way Angela liked it. Walter would beam every time, telling me how Angela had managed a few bites that day. But what really got me was catching him eating alone in his car some mornings. When I'd bring his order out, he'd quickly wipe his eyes and give me that same warm smile. One day, I finally asked him about it. Some days she doesn't remember how to eat, he whispered. But I still bring it, just in case today's different. I started clocking in early just to make his French toast myself. The other waitresses thought I was crazy, but seeing Walter's face made it worth it. He'd tell me stories about Angela, how she was a kindergarten teacher, how she'd leave little love notes in his lunch even after 40 years of marriage. Then one morning, Walter didn't come in, or the next day, or the one after that. A week later, he shuffled in looking 20 years older. Angela had a bad fall, he said. She's not eating anymore. I made his French toast anyway. He just stared at it. Would you like to come with me? He asked suddenly. To meet her? She's having a good day today. At the nursing home, Angela was tiny in her bed, bruised from her fall, but her eyes were bright when Walter walked in. He introduced me as the angel who makes our French toast. To my shock, Angela smiled and said, "You make it extra crispy on the edges." It was the most lucid thing she'd say during my visit. Walter's hands shook as he tried to cut the French toast into bite-sized pieces. Without thinking, I took the knife and fork from him. "Let me," I said. For 30 minutes, I watched as Walter patiently fed his wife, telling her about his morning, about the weather, about everything and nothing. She drifted in and out, sometimes looking at him like a stranger, other times squeezing his hand. I started visiting with Walter every few days after my shift. Angela had more bad days than good, but Walter never missed a morning. Even when she threw the French toast at him, even when she screamed that she didn't know him, even when she couldn't swallow anymore and he just sat there, holding the cold toast in her hand. The morning Angela died, Walter came into the diner at his usual time, ordered his usual. I silently made 2 plates of French toast. He looked at the second plate for a long time. "She would have loved these," he said. "They're extra crispy on the edges." I sat with him until he finished both plates. He left me a $100 tip and a note. "Thank you for making her last year taste like our first date." I quit the diner a month later for a better paying job, but I still wake up early every Sunday to make cinnamon French toast, extra crispy on the edges. I think about Walter and Angela, and how sometimes the biggest acts of love are the smallest things we do every day, even when, especially when, they break our hearts. The thing is, I never thought I'd see Walter again after I left the diner, but 6 months later, while I was working my new job as a bank teller, this familiar voice came through the drive-through window. Could I make a deposit? I looked up and there was Walter. But something was different. He was wearing a nice hat and had a suitcase in his passenger seat. "Are you going somewhere?" I asked. "California," he said, pushing an envelope through the window. "My daughter keeps asking me to live closer to her and the grandkids, but I wanted to give you this first." The envelope contained $5,000 and a photo. In the picture, Walter and Angela stood in front of this very diner, both young and smiling. Angela was wearing a diner uniform just like mine. "Angela worked here before you," he said. "This was how we met. She made me French toast every morning for 6 months before I had the courage to ask her out. The manager is still the same guy from back then. Old Mike. Ask him about Angela. He has more photos in his office." I felt something shift in my chest. "I had no idea. We wanted to tell you, but the timing never felt right," Walter said. "Angela wanted me to give you her recipe. It's on the back of the photo, and she wanted you to know that you reminded her of herself when she was young." That's when I noticed Angela's handwriting on the back of the photo. Not just a recipe, but a message. "To the girl who makes French toast like love itself. Thank you for taking care of my Walter when I couldn't anymore. Keep the edges crispy. Angela." My eyes started burning. When did she write this? 3 months before she passed, Walter said. She had a clear day and insisted. Kept saying she had to thank the French toast angel before it was too late. I processed his deposit with shaking hands. When I gave him his receipt, he held onto my hand for a moment. "Don't feel guilty about the job you left. This place prepared you for something bigger, just like it did for Angela." After Walter drove away, I went back inside and found old Mike, the owner. His eyes got misty when I mentioned Angela. 60 years ago, she started exactly where you did. Worked here for 2 years before she became a teacher. Told me she learned how to take care of people by serving them breakfast." He pulled out a dusty photo album from his desk drawer, page after page of the diner's history. There was Angela at 19, looking so much like me it was startling. There were photos of her and Walter getting married, coming back to celebrate anniversaries, bringing their daughter, even bringing their granddaughter. They came in every year on their anniversary, Mike said. Even after Angela got sick, Walter would order 2 plates of French toast and tell everyone about their first date. Said it was the most important meal of his life. Looking through those photos, I realized something that changed how I saw everything. My job at the diner wasn't just a job. It was part of a story that started decades before me and would continue long after. Every plate I served, every customer, I remembered every extra touch of care. It all mattered more than I knew. That Sunday, I made my usual French toast, extra crispy on the edges. But this time I invited my coworkers from the bank. I told them Walter and Angela's story, about how love can hide in the smallest acts, about how taking care of people never really ends. One of them asked, "Do you ever regret leaving the diner?" I thought about it. No, because now I help people with their money so they can have first dates and 40-year anniversaries and French toast mornings of their own. 6 months later, I got a letter from California. Walter had sent a photo of himself on the beach with his grandkids. On the back, he'd written, "Teaching the next generation how to make French toast. They're getting pretty good at those crispy edges." But there was more. Inside the envelope was another photo. This one showed Walter at a new diner in California. He was behind the counter, wearing an apron. And sitting at the counter was an elderly woman who looked familiar. A post-it note was stuck to this photo. "Met Rose at the senior center. She comes in every morning at 7 a.m. for pancakes. Getting ready to ask her to the movies. Wish me luck. Walter." I pinned both photos to my cubicle at the bank. People ask about them all the time. I tell them the truth, that these photos remind me that life moves in circles, that love finds ways to repeat itself, and that kindness breeds more kindness. But what I don't tell them is what happened next. Last month, a young girl came into the bank with her grandmother. While waiting in line, I overheard the girl ask, "Grandma, why do you always order the same thing at breakfast?" The grandmother smiled. "Because the first time your grandfather took me out, I ordered French toast. Every time I eat it, I remember that morning." I looked up from my teller window. The grandmother was Rose, the woman from Walter's photo. When they reached my window, Rose gasped, "You're the French toast girl. Walter told me all about you." Before I could respond, she continued, "He proposed last week, said he finally learned that love doesn't end with goodbye. It just finds new ways to say hello." My throat tightened. "Congratulations, we're getting married next month at the senior center," Rose said. Walter insisted on cinnamon French toast for the reception, said he knows someone who makes the best batch this side of anywhere. That's when it all came together. The circle completed itself in ways I never expected. I wasn't just a small part of Walter and Angela's story. I was the bridge to Walter and Rose's beginning. I started crying right there at the teller window. A line had formed behind them, but nobody seemed to mind. Sometimes truth hits you like that. Sudden and overwhelming. "I'll be there," I managed to say. "And I'll bring the French toast." Rose's granddaughter looked up at me. "Can you teach me how to make it? My mom says I should learn family recipes." I glanced at Rose, who nodded through her own tears. "Of course. We'll start with getting the edges extra crispy." That Sunday, instead of making French toast alone, I invited Rose's granddaughter over. Her name was Maya, and she was 8. As we cooked, I told her about Walter and Angela, about diners and love stories, about how food can carry memories across decades. "My teacher says I should write about my family history," Maya said, carefully watching me flip the toast. "Can I write about this?" "Write about anything you want," I said, thinking about how stories connect us all. That's when Maya said something that stopped me cold. "My grandma says you look exactly like her old friend Angela did at the diner. She has the photo by her bed." I looked at this child with flour on her nose and syrup on her fingers and realized that Angela's story, Walter's story, was still being written through me, through Rosa, through Maya. After Maya left, I sat at my kitchen table looking at Angela's recipe card, now splattered with use. At the bottom, Angela had written something I hadn't noticed before. "Love is like French toast. Sometimes it gets cold, sometimes it falls apart, but if you add enough cinnamon and make the edges crispy enough, it always brings people home." I started making an extra batch of French toast every Sunday, not for myself, but to freeze and give to people who need it. The elderly couple down the hall, the single mom working 2 jobs, the recent widow who orders takeout every night. One Sunday morning, my phone rang. It was Maya. "Miss Emily, Grandma Rose and Walter want you to come over. They're practicing their first dance for the wedding. They're playing the song from their first date." When I arrived at Rose's house, Walter answered the door in his best suit. His eyes crinkled when he smiled. The French toast angel returns. In the living room, Rose wore a pale blue dress. The song playing was Moon River. Walter took my hand and Rose's, standing us in a small circle. "Before we practice," he said, voice wavering, "I need to tell you both something. That morning Angela passed. Her last words were about French toast. She said, 'Promise me you'll teach someone else.'" He looked at me. "I thought I was bringing Angela's love to you through those breakfast orders, but really, you were carrying it forward all along." Rose stepped closer. "When Walter first told me about you, I was jealous. How could I compete with a love story that beautiful? But then I understood. I'm not competing. I'm continuing." The 3 of us stood there, connected by grief and joy. by past love and new beginnings. Maya came in from the kitchen. "The French toast is ready." We sat around Rose's dining table. Walter, Rose, Maya, and me. 4 place settings. Fresh French toast with crispy edges. But there was something else on the table. A new stack of photos. Maya had made a scrapbook. Photos of Walter and Angela. Photos of me at the diner. Photos of Walter meeting Rose. And new photos of all of us together, making French toast, laughing, creating new memories. "This is my family history project," Maya announced proudly. "My teacher says families aren't just blood. They're the people who feed you and take care of you and teach you how to make French toast the right way." As we ate, Walter told Rose about our Sunday morning ritual, how we'd drive to Angela's favorite spots, the park where he proposed, the diner where they met, the old house where they raised their daughter. "I'd like to join you sometimes," Rose said softly. "If that's okay?" Walter reached across the table to hold both her hand and mine. "Angela would love that." The conversation turned to the wedding. Simple ceremony, just family and close friends. Cinnamon French toast instead of cake. Purple irises, Angela's favorite flower, alongside yellow roses for Rose. "I'm hiring a food truck," Walter said. "Run by young people just starting out. Like you two were." Maya perked up. "Can I help serve the French toast?" "Of course," I said. "Every good French toast maker needs an apprentice." After breakfast, Walter and Rose practiced their dance while Maya and I cleaned up. Through the kitchen window, we watched them sway slowly to old songs. Walter's steps were steadier now, his shoulders less burdened. "Do you think they'll have babies?" Maya asked while drying dishes. I laughed. "They have grandchildren and great-grandchildren already, but they might have other kinds of babies. New traditions, new favorite places, new Sunday morning routines, like French toast families instead of French toast babies." Exactly. Later that day, I got a call from Mike at the diner. "Emily, I'm thinking of retiring. The place is getting harder to manage. Would you be interested in buying it?" My heart skipped. "Me? But I don't have that kind of money." "I'm not talking about money," Mike said. "I'm talking about continuing what Angela started, what you've been doing every Sunday, making French toast that changes lives." I thought about the diner where it all began, about Angela working there at 19, meeting Walter, creating a love story that would span generations. About me, learning the same lessons, making the same discoveries. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with Angela's recipe card, Walter's photos, and a blank notebook. I started writing. Once upon a time, there was a diner where every French toast order came with a side of love. 3 months later, the wedding took place. Simple, beautiful, exactly as planned. I wore the dress Angela had worn to her own wedding. Walter had saved it all these years. Rose wore yellow roses in her hair. Maya served French toast with perfect crispy edges to all 60 guests. When she came to my table, she whispered, "I made extra batches for the angels who couldn't be here." Walter's daughter gave a toast about how love doesn't delete the past. It adds to it. How losing someone doesn't mean stopping your heart. It means making room for more. During their first dance, Walter and Rose invited me to join them. Then Maya, then Walter's daughter. Soon, everyone was dancing, connected in this circle of love that started with 2 plates of French toast 60 years ago. After the wedding, I stood in the diner's empty parking lot, keys in my hand. Tomorrow, I'd open it under my name. Angela's kitchen, since 1963, would be the new sign. My phone buzzed. A text from Walter. "Angela knew what she was doing when she led you here. Every angel needs wings. Yours are crispy and golden brown. Now spread them." I looked up at the dark sky, thinking about all the mornings I'd wake up at 5 a.m. to prep for the breakfast rush, how the smell of cinnamon would fill the air, how customers would share their stories over plates of perfectly crispy French toast. The next morning, I opened the diner at 5 a.m. sharp. At 6 a.m., the door chimed. I looked up from the prep counter, expecting my first customer. It was Maya, wearing an apron she'd decorated herself. Across the chest, she'd written, "Junior Angel in Training. Grandma and Walter said I could help on weekends," she explained. "They said every love story needs good food." I handed her Walter's favorite coffee mug. "Want to learn how to make the eggs just right? Extra runny? Always extra runny." As Maya cracked eggs with concentration that mirrored Walter's careful movements when he fed Angela, I realized something profound. I'd spent a year thinking I was learning about love from Walter and Angela's story, but the truth was bigger than that. I was living inside a love story that began before me and would continue after me. Every French toast recipe passed down, every Sunday morning ritual, every act of kindness, they were all pages in this endless book of love. The door chimed again. 2 elderly men entered, arguing about baseball. Behind them, a young couple, sleepy-eyed and holding hands. Then a woman in a nurse's uniform, picking up coffee before her shift. "Table or counter?" I asked each of them. They all chose tables. As I took their orders, Maya watched carefully. When I delivered the first plate, 2 eggs sunny side up, bacon and cinnamon French toast, the elderly man looked up, surprised. "I didn't order French toast." I smiled, setting it down anyway. "It's on the house. You might find you need it. Today." It was only as I headed back to the kitchen that I saw what I'd done. I'd given him Walter's exact order, down to the plate position. The French toast sat at precisely 2 o'clock, just as Angela used to place it. The universe works in circles sometimes. Love flows forward in unexpected currents, and occasionally, if you pay attention, you can see the angel's fingerprints on things, even if they're just flour-dusted and smell like cinnamon. At the end of that first day, after Maya had carefully counted the tips and I'd wiped down all the tables, I found an envelope slipped under the door. Inside was a $50 bill and a note in shaky handwriting. "Thank you for the French toast. I'm meeting my estranged son for coffee tomorrow. Haven't seen him in 5 years. Needed courage. Marvin." I pinned the note to the bulletin board, behind the register, the first of many that would come, because this is what I learned from Walter and Angela, from Rose and Maya, from every customer who would walk through these doors. Love isn't just about grand gestures or forever promises. It's about showing up every day with crispy edges and runny eggs. It's about knowing someone's order by heart. It's about making extra space at the table for the ones who need it. The diner still opens at 5 a.m. Maya still helps on weekends. Walter and Rose come every anniversary, now with their blended family. Sometimes it's hard to tell where one love story ends and another begins. And sometimes, late at night after closing, I'll make a batch of French toast just to get the recipe right, extra crispy on the edges, just like Angela taught me, just like I'm teaching Maya, just like she'll teach someone else someday.